Hello there, everyone. My name is Jerry Hawthorne, and this is my game Mice and Mystics. Mice and Mystics is a story-driven family board game, and it's purely cooperative. Each player plays the role of a little mouse. They used to be humans, but they got transformed into mice form by a powerful spell, and yet they still have to save the kingdom that's in peril. But now they're only 2 inches tall, and they're stuck inside of a castle, going through the castle walls and tunnels that have been carved out by mice over the centuries. They take on enemies like rats and centipedes and spiders, and they carry out their missions. The game is played using a storybook. In the storybook, it's broken into chapters, just like a real storybook, and each chapter, when you sit down to play the game, you'll play through an entire chapter in one evening. Usually it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And there's moments in the story that we call story moments where you actually break away from the game and you read a little bit of the story. And it keeps everybody involved, and then you play out the actions that are happening in the story, and you play out those actions on the storyboard. The chapter book comes with 11 chapters, and it tells a complete story from beginning to end. And it's a great adventure for the whole family. During the game, when you're playing, you'll be playing with your little mice on the board. The movement spaces are actually worked into the art of the board. You'll have actions that you can take on your turn. Your mice will move around the board. They'll do various abilities and fight enemies and do all different kinds of things. The boards that you play on are two-sided. So during the game, if your mouse gets to a spot where you're able to flip, you can use an explore action, and you will flip, and you will go to the other side of the tile. That represents the mice going through the sewer grate right here and ending up down in the sewers, and then you'll continue adventuring. During the game, you'll be rolling dice. Dice control just about everything in the game. When you roll to make an attack or something like that, you roll and you look for shields and swords, and these have various effects on your actions. Whenever you roll a cheese, you get to put a cheese token in your stash for your character. And when you want to use a character's abilities, they cost cheese, so you spend your cheese to use the abilities. You also have all different kinds of items that you can find throughout the castle. Most of these are repurposed items that used to be human-sized, but now are made into little mouse-sized items for the mice to use to help them along. During the game, you'll be playing through pages of the chapter book. If the hourglass ever reaches the end symbol here, then you have failed your mission. During the game, whenever the minions roll cheese on their dice, they put the cheese on the minion cheese wheel, and when this cheese wheel fills up, the hourglass moves one page further on the track, and if it ever reaches the end, then you guys lose. The order that the game is played in is conducted with little cards that represent your character on this initiative track, and that tells the order that the game is played in. So that's pretty much how the game is played in a little brief nutshell form there. And it's a great, fun, and adventurous game for the whole family.
Hey, I'm Mr. Bistro with Plaid Hat Games, and the game we're showing off right now is City of Remnants, a game by Isaac Vega. It's for 3 to 4 players. It's a game of gang warfare on a prison planet far in the future. We've got 4 different gangs that are vying for turf, and each one is very different. It's very asymmetric. Each gang has its own abilities. And this is our starting setup here, sort of a couple rounds in. Gang members have seized territory, and they're starting to build places. So we have Stardust District, which is sort of a drug den, Thieves District. There's a counterfeiting area someone set up, and each of these areas does different things for you. They might generate money, which you can then produce and sell. But also the gangs will try and claim territory, and they'll even be fighting each other for it as well. So there's a small deck building element where your gang members are used in fights. They also provide you with different special abilities. But like a lot of gangs, when they're killed, that guy is out of the game. The card's taken out. So he's dead, and you're going to do a lot of recruiting because over on the side of the table, we have people who are for sale. Gang members you can recruit into your deck, as well as black market items you can purchase as well. So there's a lot of different strategies you can use to the game. You can focus on building, producing, you can focus on fighting and stealing from other players. There's also something to be aware of, though. So the aliens who've imprisoned all these people on the planet, the U-Guy, they come in and they try and keep control. So the areas represent 3 different districts of the city. You have the slums in the outer ring, Midtown, the center, and then in the very middle, you've got Uptown. So the really nice stuff can be made in Uptown. That's where you make a lot of money. But every turn, the U-Guy are going to be coming in, and they'll be dropping into the city like a police force, and they'll be fighting the gang members who they land on. And they're really likely to land in the center. And it sort of spreads out and become a lot more scarce on the slums. So you've got a bag full of U-Guy tokens, which are the cops, and they'll come in, they'll land, and they'll fight you as well, or you can bribe them off. So the main way to win the game is renown, and you get renown by taking and holding territories. You can spend money to get renown. There's lots of different stuff. You've also got influence, which is a big deal because this represents how many cards you have in your hands. It represents number of guys you can play in the fights, stuff like that. So that's City of Remnants. It's a rather deep, rather meaty strategy game, and we're looking at BioShock Infinite, which is our big release for this con. So BioShock Infinite Siege of Columbia takes place during the events of the video game itself. But players take on the role of the ultra-nationalistic founders and versus the super anarchist group, the Vox Populi. And you're battling for control of Columbia, just like in the video game. Unlike the video game, though, Booker and Elizabeth are not controlled by a player. They're like a force of nature. They're running through Columbia, doing all the stuff they do in the video game, basically tearing stuff up. So you play either the founders or Vox Populi, and you're trying to work around Booker and Elizabeth. If you can capture Elizabeth, that's great. She's worth a lot of points. But Booker is a madman and will come for her, and he will destroy a lot of stuff. So you've got different troop types. You've got your basics. You've got special troops like the Handyman. And you've also got characters out of the video game too. We've got Songbird, Comstock's in here. We got Daisy. There's also the airship. So you've got movement, which is pretty normal, like a lot of dudes on the map style games. We can move to sections, but you've also got the rails that you'll need to be able to access in order to get to all the different regions of the game. And riding the rails is pretty easy. You can actually jump anywhere in the board you want. But for each spot that you hit in the rails, you've got to roll these dice. And there's a lot of risk involved because you can actually lose your guys. They can get killed on their way. So there's also some hand management. So when you go into fights, you can play cards, which will add attack values, but you can also use your cards to generate money or influence. So each turn you're going to have events that occur in the game, and these can change the rules. So like for instance, let's take to the streets. This is a card that's made for the Vox Populi. If this event occurs, they're going to get a big bonus. So there's a vote that happens. Every card that the Vox Populi play will count towards the vote. Every card the founder plays will count against it. So your cards have to be saved each turn. Do you want to use them for combat? Do you need to generate cash so you can buy more troops? Or do you want to use them for influence? So you've got to be able to balance all these things. In addition, you've got upgrades. So all of your different card types can be upgraded. You can unlock special abilities by doing this. Unlocks that special ability in their cards. You can also up their stats as well. So each player could potentially customize one of these sides to play best for them. You've also got, in addition to troops, you've got strongholds, you've got turrets, automated turrets, you've got alarms you can set up. So there's a lot of different ways to go to fight towards victory. So this is Summoner Wars, one of our flagship games. It's a tactical game of combat, 2 different sides representing a fantasy faction. Each player gets their own deck, which is unique to them. They are customizable if you wish, but it's not required. Basically, you start up with this is the starting setup. Everyone's got a summoner. who's sort of like a king on a chessboard, except unlike a king, he is the most powerful thing they've got. And you've got a bunch of different warriors who are going to move forward, and you got to kill the enemy summoner. You have walls, which are defensive points, but you also summon new troops to them. So as the game goes, you summon more and more troops to go kill the enemy summoner. When you kill guys, they go to your magic pile, and you use those magic cards to summon more troops. So the more of your enemy you destroy, the more guys you can bring in. You're also able to discard your own cards in your magic pile if you need to be able to catch up. And that's the game. Each card can, 3 cards each turn can move 2 spaces. You roll a number of dice equal to the attack value. Every roll of a 3 or better is a hit. So the basic rules are super simple. Where it gets meaty and complex is that each card has its own unique ability. So there's lots of different ways you can combo your cards to achieve victory. If you customize your deck, you can take that even farther. And of course, you can even use your abilities to combo in some way at times with your enemy's abilities. And that is Summoner Wars.